Number one was that EU members should provide education towards their own citizens concerning the culture and views of the ethnic groups that are immigrating towards them, and as well as those ethnic groups should be educated about the culture and views of the countries that they've moved to. Now, this was important because so much of the social tension caused in the countries is due to the fact that there's no appreciation of the differing cultures, that because they don't understand what they do not know, there is sometimes fear and sometimes just anger at the fact that these people are there. And so we hope that through a greater understanding, there will be increased peace between the different ethnic groups in the various countries. Finally, countries should be able to set their own quotas for immigrants moving around countries in the EU. This was so that, with an understanding of how many immigrants that they could bear with their own social abilities, and due to the amount of jobs available, so as not to increase unemployment, with that quota they would be able to limit immigrants to their own countries so that they would be able to go to other parts of the EU to provide a fairer spreading of the different immigrants, so that it's not particularly difficult on any one country in looking after the different pressures of those immigrants.
What would you suggest would happen if, say, these quotas were filled and that countries were stating that they couldn't possibly take any more immigrants? Would you, for example, then decide to send them back to the countries they came from? What would be your policy on a scenario such as this?
Of course, the quota would work alongside the rest of the objectives put forward by this suggestion. Quotas currently would not fail to deal with the issue because the countries which are currently under so much pressure are mostly in the southern belt of the European Union members, and therefore, once they've been able to move and spread out across Europe, numbers would be decreased to a greater extent, because currently in some of the northern countries there is a much smaller problem with that, and then the immigrant numbers would increase at a slow enough rate in order that the funding to develop those countries where there is so much humanitarian problems, in order to bring about stability in those countries, we would be able to decrease the amount of immigration, which is slowly decreasing from time to time, and therefore the quotas are very unlikely to be breached, so to speak.
We are thinking about creating a collective fund to support companies that offer internships to young, inexperienced graduates. And we decided to sustain them with a certain sum of money. Lastly, we realized that there are lots of domains which are less appealing than others, especially because certain domains impose a high grade of difficulty. For example, the science domain. So people will opt for easier domains, and we are faced with a really big gap between the rate of unemployment in some domains. So in order to reduce that gap, we decided to focus on making unpopular jobs more appealing through a more efficient marketing scheme involving certain bonuses and relatively better paid jobs.
So you're saying that we're going to pay companies to employ young, inexperienced people, inexperienced workers, but actually the companies need also the experience and the knowledge that people have after they have graduated. So how will these bonuses and extras be okay compared to the experience that these companies will miss?
Well, obviously, when you choose to hire a less experienced worker, you are in a deficit because you are going to hire an experienced person, and so the quality of the production may not be as good. So in order to help them and help them sustain those young workers for a period of time in which those persons can gain experience and help produce a better quality, then yeah, that's the balance, because it's basically a compromise they make.